Hello and welcome to this water purity report for briefing retraining and the Buteyko method. This is a part of the Buteyko Practitioner training module. This report is going to have two parts. In first part I'm going to provide information for ordinary or normal people, and then would be second part, the part which will be devoted to Buteyko practitioners. So the second part people can buy either from the website or online. So first part, which is freely accessible and it will be posted on YouTube. Information for ordinary people and normal people. So I believe if we talk about only purity of water, because we are not going to consider some other effects, maybe some fancy or unusual effects which people can have, can do with water, such as to maybe to imprint some frequencies, to charge water, to charge with argon energy. So there are kind of various, to create some structure in water, various possibilities how people can do additional things with water. But in this particular report, I'm only concerned about one thing, water purity. And that's how I'm going to discuss this topic only from this viewpoint. So thinking about many different types of water which we can find around the world these days, I would say there are probably 4 different types of water, roughly 4 different types, because later these waters could be subdivided on some other categories. So first one would be reverse osmosis water, and reverse osmosis means usually companies who produce reverse osmosis water, of course these days millions of people have reverse osmosis machines in their houses, use this process which involves 7, sometimes 8, 9, and in some rare cases maybe up to 10, 11 different steps to purify water, and up to 99.9% of all impurities removed. So you can imagine this is very pure water from chemical viewpoint, and that probably would be purest water possible. Although here we have a variety of other concerns, because it happens so that for people who are sick and sicker, so those who are low in the Buteyko table of health zones, which I usually have behind me, these people have more likely chances to develop different abnormal reactions to very pure water. And that is why modern reverse osmosis water, which you can buy in supermarkets around the world quite easily, not everywhere though, like let's say European Union, it seems to be not so popular, but around the world I was in many countries, like in Africa, in Asia, like India, Sri Lanka, reverse osmosis water is extremely common, and countries of the former Soviet Union, like Georgia, Azerbaijan, Armenia, of course reverse osmosis also very popular and common, Belarus, Ukraine. So it's only, I would say, probably kind of central, more western part of Europe where reverse osmosis water hard to find in supermarkets. So I'll explain this topic a little bit later. So let me go to second type of water, that would be in terms of purity, baby waters. Baby waters could be found not in all countries. In many countries we just kind of, if you ask them about it, they would say like maybe there is something wrong with you because we don't have baby waters at all. We may have waters which could be used by babies, and we assume that okay, that's like pure enough, good enough for babies to use. But in countries like Germany, Austria, Switzerland, United States, Canada, baby waters can be found in pharmacies and supermarkets, and so there is kind of a separate category for this. But in terms of standards, I would say only Germany, Austria, like European countries, we would have much higher standards for baby waters, because it seems to be we are not happy with steam distillation water to be used as baby water, whereas in North America, like the United States and Canada, it's commonly known that baby water in, let's say, big pharmacies, supermarkets, can be just water which is done with steam distillation, so-called. So this again like less rigorous process, and that's why I put it in a second category. So I would say like there are 2 types of water which would be a little worse than reverse osmosis water. That would be baby waters, used again in countries like I mentioned, and steam distillation like 2A and 2B as I call them. Now, if we go further, okay, what would be other water, because of general pollution of the whole environment, of the whole earth, it's extremely, well, it's not extremely difficult. These days it's probably impossible to find totally pure water, and this is why natural waters, they would have way worse quality in comparison with reverse osmosis, and more probably also in comparison with steam distillation and BP waters as well. At the same time, of course, there are large differences in quality of natural waters, and they can range up to 100 or more times in relation to the content of different contamination or different chemicals which are not desirable to have in water. So in my view, again, like having experience with teaching many students, testing on myself, I would say that probably most among very popular waters which you can find around the world, two of them, Volvic and Evian, and these are waters from French Alps, very, very common around European Union. Probably in any country you can find relatively easy, but even I saw it in many other countries around the world, be it Australia or India or North America, the same, they could be found there too. So it can be a kind of worldwide known type of waters. There are other waters, and I believe we are certainly against the purest water among natural waters. Now, there are also less popular and less known brands of water, such as water from New Zealand. I don't know if you have seen, like some, if you make a crosscut, it's like square bottle, no, quite long bottle. Often can be found in airports, for example, maybe some other places, quite expensive water. And another water would be Icelandic water, again, can be found in airports when you travel, also very expensive type of water. Would be some other brands in specific countries which would have a bit better quality than other natural waters. For example, I found that there is water which can be found in Croatia, Germany, Montenegro, and it's produced in Serbia. It's called Prolom. So I actually spoke with some local people, and they do say that it's actually indeed the purest water we know, which is produced in Serbia. And it could be again like if we go to the next category, would be a very, very large number of other brands, which would be most likely, nearly all of them would be having way worse quality in comparison with those waters that I mentioned. So that would be, let's say, in my view, fourth category of waters which you can easily find in supermarkets. We are like most commonly used, but the quality would be not as good as water that I mentioned in previous three categories. Now that like raises, of course, many questions for people. I'm talking about again here water purity, particularly for people who are highly sensitive. And the question which other people may ask, okay, if I'm usual like a normal or ordinary person and I do not have any particular reactions to waters, should I change my water? Should I try some other water, or are my choices like really bad? I should not drink some other natural water, let's say, which belongs to according to the categorization that I provided to the fourth category? Well, my answer would be it's probably most likely, in my experience, you should be fine without changing water, and you would be just by using again like the water that you like, most likely you will be totally fine, because it's only again in some specific situations when people are sick, and particularly when we are sick with digestive problems, we could become very sensitive to water quality as well. And that was the reason why Dr. Buteyko, of course, paid very good attention to water quality, and he believed that during, like again, when he was doing some experiments, research and testing water on his patients, that frozen water, like water that you can freeze to ice and then you can put it inside, so you put it in a freezer, make it like a piece of ice, even in a plastic bottle or some other container, and then you start to defreeze it. And here an interesting effect takes place, because I thought about this effect like purely from a chemical or from physical viewpoint, what is going on here, why water which was frozen would be of better quality. And I believe there could be two effects here, both of them are contributing in a positive direction. One of them would be that frozen water most likely to be much more structured when you thaw it. So when water is melted again from ice, so and you create water which was previously frozen, this water would have much better structural content and in the structure, and that makes it more palatable, and as well as probably having a different reaction on the digestive tract and how the body absorbs and utilizes this water as well. That's only one factor, but I believe this is a second factor why frozen water, again promoted and kind of encouraged by Dr. Buteyko. There is why this water, frozen water, would have additional advantage is what happens here when water is frozen. There is actually a very similar effect what happens when people dig in mines ore from different metals. Let's say we try to extract iron or some other metals. So what we do with this, what we dig from the deep from the earth, we melt it to very high temperature, and iron, like I think it's like 700 or more Celsius degrees, so extremely high temperatures. So when this ore is melted and they start to solidify it, what happens, those parts of this very composite mixture with many metals included, because this is how they lie deeply inside earth, what happens, they start to solidify from the edges from which the whole mass is cooled down, and therefore iron would be formed on the edges of the part, and impurities would be pushed inside the middle, and finally when the whole structure is frozen, we will get a core which consists of impurities, and the outer part would have relatively pure iron. So that's, for example, how we do iron, probably aluminum, copper. We do something very similar, because it's relatively simple and, well, relatively cheap, of course, process as well to extract metals. And with water, you can expect there would be a similar situation, because when water is frozen, impurities would be pushed towards the middle, and the core would be formed. You would not see it in water because the number, the concentration, like the total mass of impurities, are very low, and therefore you would not be able to see this core on the same way as you would see, for example, when molten ore starts to solidify. But at the same time, there is like kind of another process here is these impurities can react with each other and form some substances which are less harmful. That's one part. Another part, I would probably advise, if you do decide to experiment with this type of water, if you start to melt to thaw this water and get like just ordinary water from piece of ice, I would advise you not to do the process to the very end. So that you get water from the more pure outer part and would leave the central part as a piece of ice and just later discard it. So this way, I believe you would get even better, certainly better water quality as well. So that's kind of small detail about how you can make your own frozen water. Now, so my answer would be going back to the question that I asked, like, should I change my water? Again, like, it's very individual, but for people who are sick, and that I had many students who would definitely improve their health once we change to better water quality. So for these people, of course, it's good to choose the water that is agreeable to them. And there would be many other situations which I'm going to explain later in the second part of this video. Now, the practical part, another practical question that I'm going to answer here, since I kind of promoted here the advantages of reverse osmosis water, how you can define the difference, and how you can define, like, okay, if you go to supermarket, buy some water, is it water done with reverse osmosis, or if this water is natural? Well, sometimes, of course, it could be steam distillation and some other filtration processes using carbon filters and so on, like Brita type filters, for example. In order to define what type of water quality you use, and like I was facing this question as well, especially when I traveled a lot to so many different countries, we have like different processes, different standards, different names even for waters. What happens here is that I discovered that waters which are done with reverse osmosis, and the most common way we produce it these days, and you can buy them in supermarkets, for water for drinking, this water would have some minerals added, and it would include calcium, magnesium, sodium, potassium, and some let's say sulfates and other minerals added to this water. And what we do, we try to maybe we try to save on money, because if we put less of these electrolytes or these minerals, it would be also cheaper for them. And water, because of that, which you can buy in supermarkets and done with reverse osmosis or steam distillation or some other processes, if we remove minerals, only reverse osmosis can do it to very, very high degree. What happens is that we add these minerals back to prevent adverse reactions of the body to pure reverse osmosis water, where minerals are not added. It was probably about 20 years ago when reverse osmosis machines became very popular, early 2000s in the United States and Canada, and these machines were like, you could find them near big supermarkets, near big pharmacies, inside big supermarkets, so in different places, big water dispensing machines like the size of the telephone booth. And at the beginning, I remember they would sell you only pure reverse osmosis water with those like funny or unusual effects which may take place again, especially in those people who have more health problems and particularly more digestive problems. Now later, a few years later, we started to sell two types of water: reverse osmosis water, and then would be water with minerals added, and it was like still very cheap. Like reverse osmosis was probably like 20-25 cents for gallon in the United States, I remember, about 20 years ago. And those with minerals added would be probably like 2-3 times more expensive, but it was still very, very cheap water to buy. And so with minerals added. And later, well, we certainly discovered that many people complained about pure reverse osmosis water, and this is why we started to add these minerals. And since then, it seems to be just pure reverse osmosis water is never advised for drinking any longer. That's why, so this type of water exists. So now, that probably would be main part, except maybe one more kind of practical suggestion I might do. It's actually, I believe, very good idea if you have your own home to install a reverse osmosis machine at your home. It's extremely common. Millions of people, particularly again, it started probably more than 10 years ago in the United States and Canada, and millions of people over there installed these reverse osmosis machines, because they go under the sink. It's kind of a box you buy. How much? $150-200 probably about these days, or euros. And then you would need to replace one filter, I think, every year, and another filter every 2-3 years, and they cost like 30, 40, 50 maybe dollars or euros. And so with this water, if you have a family of 4 or 5 people and you regularly use this water for drinking and cooking and preparing like some other things which you eat or drink, then in about 2-3 years, there are calculations you can make yourself as well, it's going to pay you back, and that means later you just use reverse osmosis water again, even though we of course include the price of extra filters that you require for this water later. So that's a good idea to install, and if you have this possibility, as I believe would be a good way to do, because your body would be a bit better functioning on this better quality water. Now, that would be it about probably for part number 1. In part number 2, for people who are again highly sensitive to water purity and quality, there is this second part of water purity report for Buteyko practitioners as a part of the Buteyko practitioner training. And these ideas again can be used for these students who have various GI problems such as inflammatory bowel disease, Crohn's disease, ulcerative colitis, gastritis, duodenitis, and many other conditions. Questions to be discussed are the following. Can people be sensitive to reverse osmosis water? And the answer would be yes. I'm going to explain what are the possible effects. What are 6 types of reverse osmosis water which you can buy probably in a large city these days, and what are the advantages and disadvantages for various situations, again, when people are sensitive to water quality, because there are people who may be, again, sensitive even to purest water, such as, again, let's say Volvic or Evian or others waters which I mentioned in the third category, as well as water which I mentioned in the second category, which are baby water and steam distillation water. So, but people can be sensitive even to reverse osmosis waters as well, because again there are 6 different types, and so I'm going to discuss what are the advantages and disadvantages of this type of water. And the related question here, of course, would be, okay, how you can make ultra pure water so that it's actually would be safe to drink, probably for any person or nearly any person, because I know the cases when students could be sensitive to, again, like even to, again, all natural waters, and even to baby waters, and even to steam distillation water. And some reverse osmosis water would cause them problems as well, but some waters could be modified or changed in a way that would be safe for them to use. So that would be second part.